Hello and welcome back everybody. So today I want to talk about the latest chapter of My Hero Academia, chapter 162. So starting with the chapter, we of course have this whole thing with Gran Torino, Kurogiri and the now named Giganto-machia, which I will only call Giganto because his name is a handful. So deal with that, okay? Now, in this arc that we've been having, we knew that Gran Torino was going away to fight someone. We knew that he was going away to deal with the League of Villains in some shape or form. We didn't really know exactly what he was going to be doing, but he did disappear by the time that they were starting the whole raid on Chisaki's facility. And now we of course see where he's been, what he's been doing. He's been tracking down Kurogiri and trying to stop him because he's apparently a really big player in Shigaraki's game. Without Kurogiri, Shigaraki will become a lot weaker. So Gran Torino and a couple of others that are with him obviously thought that, okay, now's the perfect opportunity, let's strike on Kurogiri, and they seemingly have him apprehended as we saw, but this big ass villain, the one that we've for so long not known the name of, Giganto, he has came out of nowhere from the forest, ready to help Kurogiri out because he's apparently a special agent by All For One. He's a very faithful servant of his, and he looks kind of big because he was as tall as the trees by the panels that we saw him in. And I'm really curious, what kind of person he is, because he looks like the type who would be like some mindless beast. He doesn't really seem to be the most intelligent kind of person, because he looks like a monster. Let's be honest, he doesn't look like a human at all, and that kind of gives me the feelings that he's gonna be all brute force and nothing else. Could be wrong, of course. We've only just seen one proper panel of him, so it is a bit early to tell us what kind of person is he, but this could put Gran Torino and the people that are with him in a pinch, because unless they retreat like right now, they might not have a chance at getting out of there, depending on how strong this man is in comparison to what their forces are capable of. So it's going to be interesting to see as what's happening on that front. Not entirely sure if that is going to be off screen or on screen. I do hope we get to see this fight, at least some of it, the important parts of it. Like, I don't just want to see the conclusion of it. That would kind of suck in my opinion, but if that ends up being the case, then I think I'll be fine with it still. That's not what I'd prefer. Alright, Deku and Mirio. Now this is obviously the sort of center of the chapter. We have them still in the hospital. Deku is fine, he's ready to go home, but Mirio has to stay for another day, I think, which, Deku wants to talk with Mirio because he wants to discuss his quirk with him, really. That's really the reason why he wants to talk with Mirio, because when he went into Mirio, we see Mirio's all happy, flexing his body and all that. He wants to show that he can actually leave today, but they want him to stay, and so he has to stay. Obviously, it's a hospital, you should listen to what they're saying and all that, but what really caught my attention is when they discuss quirks, because that is when things really took a turn in some sense, because obviously we know that Mirio Togata, he's quirkless, but he's really happy, he has a smile on his face because that's kind of his character, he smiles no matter the situation. Yes, he lost Night Eye just recently, but despite that, he keeps a smile on his face, even if that smile isn't completely genuine. He's still sad, of course. He's always going to have Night Eyes passing on his mind. That's never really going to be going away, but he can't just be gloomy and depressed, for the rest of time. And that's kind of what he's saying to Deku, like, cheer up, man, put a smile on your face. Of course, the most interesting part about this part of the chapter was when Deku says something to Mirio. He said something like, if I could give you my quirk, would you take it? And Mirio is like, no, I will not have your quirk. He doesn't know that Deku has one for all, but Deku nearly, and I need to emphasize, nearly revealed what his quirk was. He was about to tell Mirio Togata. I'm pretty sure he was going to do it. We know he's done it before with Bakugo. I wouldn't be surprised if he would do it again. Obviously, Mirio Togata stopped him, even though he didn't know he stopped him, but he did. And that's what I find fascinating, Mirio Togata, he doesn't want his quirk. If he's gonna have a quirk, it's gonna be his own quirk. Otherwise, he's fine being quirkless. And Mirio said something like, if Eri can in the future at some point control her quirk. They're going to try and restore his original quirk back to him, but if that doesn't happen, then he's going to be remaining quirkless. So he doesn't really care if he's quirkless or not. I mean, yes, he's going to be impaired in the sense that he doesn't have a quirk, you know, he's going to be a weaker hero compared to what he was. He's still going to be stronger than some other heroes, no doubt, because he was an absolute beast when he did have his quirk. And you know, a quirk doesn't really define you as a hero. It's part of who you are, but it doesn't define the entire character. So he's not really going to be, you know, one of the weaker characters in the series by any means. I mean, like I said in the past review, I think we have a character in the Vigilante series who doesn't have a quirk, who's still doing really great work. So, you know, having Togata being that person for a while, well, at least for a while, that would be really great for the series, I think, because we don't really have a canon character who does that, you know, because the Vigilante series isn't canon. So having a character from the actual My Hero Academia series would be really appreciated to me. I mean, I think a lot of people would put a lot of value in that, because the only thing that's to do with quirkless people that we know of are, of course, that Deku and All Might at some point were quirkless and they were given one for all. But Mirio Togata, he's the first quirkless person really that doesn't inherit one for all. I mean, he was supposed to, but he didn't. So, you know, he's going to be brute force, just a human, striking down villains and doing whatever. I mean, when he gets back to school anyway, he was taking a leave of absence for some time. Not entirely sure how long, but I imagine a while. You know, he needs to recover mentally and all of that. So it's not really a surprise that he would want to take a break. I mean, you can't just go straight back to school after losing your quirk or losing your mentor. You know, this has taken a great toll on Mirio's body and mind. Lastly, what I want to talk about is the very end of this chapter, because there's a moment, you know, the very last panel of the chapter with Bakugo and Todoroki. You know, they're going to be doing another attempt at the provisional hero license exam, and that might mean that that's the next arc. I hope not, to be honest. I hope that's kinda off screen to some extent and we may see some of it, you know, while we have some other things going on in the school. That is what I would prefer, but if that ends up being the next arc, you know, I'd still be fine with it. I just feel like we just had that arc a while back, you know, the arc before the actual overhaul arc was the provisional hero license exam arc. So having that again would be a bit repetitive, I think. I mean, obviously it's gonna be different because I think it's different every time, but it's still going to be kinda the same. They still strive for the same end goal in that arc, which I feel is a little bit too repetitive in that sense, but we'll see. You know, it's still too early to tell. Yes, because they were walking off in that direction doesn't necessarily mean that's going to end up being the next arc. You know, it doesn't have to be the case, but it certainly is leaning in that direction. But what I am mostly curious about right now is, of course, the whole Gran Torino and Giganto, Kurogiri, all of that. That's what I'm mostly curious about right now, because they did leave us with quite the cliffhanger on Giganto just appearing out of the forest. I'm just glad we don't have to call him the rock villain anymore. You know, we finally have a name for him, and that's something that I really find to be a good thing with this chapter. You know, a new revelation, not something big, like we don't have a new character revelation, just a name of someone we already knew. We just didn't know his name. We don't know his quirk yet, but I'm pretty sure it's to do with hardening or some kind of mutation, you know, because he does look like a massive guy made of rock kinda. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say about this chapter. It wasn't really the biggest chapter, you know, that we've had. It's just sort of the opening of a new arc or the ending of the overhaul arc. It is a bit hard to tell, honestly, because Horikoshi's, you know, transitions are very smooth, so you don't really notice the exact chapter when a new arc is opening. So hopefully the next chapter will give us more information of what is the next arc going to be, because that's something that I would like to know. Anyway, I think I'll be ending this video here, so let me know what you think down below in the comments. And as always, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new to my channel. This has been your favorite host Perm, and I will see you next time.